Many people assume that class is something you can see. They think of elegant clothes, polished manners, or the way a woman carries herself in a room. And while those things may leave an impression, I have never believed they tell the whole story. The older I get, the more I find myself paying attention to something else. Not how a woman presents herself when life is going smoothly, but how she carries herself inside a relationship, because that is where a character has a way of revealing itself. Not in the easy moments, but in the moments that test our confidence, our patience, and our sense of self-worth. What always fascinated me was that the most confident women I met were rarely the ones trying hardest to keep a relationship. They seemed to understand something quieter and far more powerful. They knew that some behaviors cost more than they are worth, no matter how much affection we hope to receive in return. And once a woman truly understands that the way she moves through relationships begins to change, not dramatically, not overnight, but in ways that protect her dignity, strengthen her self-respect, and allow love to grow from a healthier place. Measuring your worth by someone else's attention, one message can lift your mood, one unanswered text can make you question yourself, one compliment can make you feel beautiful, one moment of distance can make you wonder what suddenly changed. Over the years, I have come to believe that one of the most elegant things a woman can learn is this: never hand someone else the responsibility of deciding your value. A classy woman enjoys attention when it is given freely. She appreciates kindness. She welcomes affection, but she does not build her identity on it. She does not spend the afternoon refreshing her phone to feel important. She does not assume she is less lovable because someone seems distracted. She does not panic when attention rises and falls. There is an idea in psychology called contingent self-worth. Jennifer Cracker and Connie Wolf described how people often tie their sense of value to things outside themselves, such as approval, achievement, appearance, or relationships. When that happens, emotional stability becomes fragile because every compliment feels like proof and every disappointment feels like evidence against us. At this stage of life, most women have already spent decades caring for other people, building families, supporting partners, and carrying responsibilities that often went unseen. The question is no longer whether someone notices you. The question is whether you notice yourself. One of the quiet freedoms that comes with maturity is realizing that attention and worth are not the same thing. Attention can be given for a moment. Worth remains when nobody is looking. If a man's attention is the only thing keeping your confidence alive, the burden is too heavy for him and too dangerous for you. A classy woman may enjoy being chosen, but she never needs that choice in order to know who she is. Competing with another woman for love, have you ever looked back on a relationship and realized that the most painful part was not losing someone, but losing your sense of dignity while trying to keep them? I think many women know exactly what that feels like, not because they were weak, but because they cared deeply. They hoped that if they were a little more patient, a little more understanding, a little more attractive, somehow they would finally become the obvious choice. But one of the quiet lessons life teaches us, often much later than we would like, is that love was never meant to be a competition. A classy woman does not spend her energy trying to outshine another woman. She does not compare every detail of her appearance. She does not study someone else's strengths and turn them into evidence of her own shortcomings. She does not lie awake wondering what another woman has that she does not. Over time, she learns that these questions never lead to peace. They only lead further away from it. What I have noticed is that competition in love is rarely about love at all. More often, it grows out of fear. Fear that there is not enough affection to go around. Fear that someone else is more desirable. Fear that being overlooked somehow means being less valuable. Yet another woman's beauty does not take away your beauty. Another woman's success does not erase your worth. Another woman's presence does not make you less deserving of genuine love. By the time a woman reaches 60, she has already spent enough years proving herself. The deeper wisdom is realizing that healthy love does not require auditions. If someone truly wants to be with you, that truth becomes clearer with time, not more confusing. And if a person cannot decide where their heart belongs, no amount of effort from you can make that decision for them. I have always believed that one of the most graceful things a woman can do is step away from situations that require her to compete for basic commitment. Not because she thinks she is better than anyone else, but because she finally understands that love worth having does not ask her to stand in line and prove her value. Sometimes the strongest thing a woman can do is quietly remember that she was never in a competition to begin with. Using silence as a weapon. I once knew a couple who almost never argued. From the outside, they looked like one of the calmest couples I had ever met. There were no raised voices, no dramatic scenes, no doors slammed in anger. Most people probably would have described their relationship as peaceful, and yet every time I spent time around them, something felt strangely cold. The silence between them did not feel comfortable. It felt heavy. Whenever he disappointed her, she stopped talking. Not for an hour, not for an afternoon, sometimes for days. She called it giving herself space. He called it walking on eggshells. The truth was that neither one was completely wrong. Sometimes she genuinely needed time to process her feelings. But over the years, that silence slowly became something else. It became a way of expressing hurt without speaking it, a way of making sure he felt the distance she felt. That is why I believe one of the most important things a classy woman never does in a relationship is use silence as a weapon. She understands that silence can be healthy. It can prevent words spoken in anger. It can create space for reflection. It can help two people return to a conversation with calmer minds and softer hearts. But healthy silence has a purpose. It creates understanding. Weaponized silence creates confusion. One of the reasons I feel strongly about this is because relationship researcher John Gottman spent decades studying couples and identified a pattern called stonewalling, a form of emotional withdrawal where communication completely shuts down. What makes this so damaging is that the original disagreement often becomes less important than the emotional distance that follows. The conflict itself is not what breaks trust. It is the feeling that one person has stopped reaching toward the other. A classy woman values peace, but she does not confuse peace with avoidance. If she needs time, she says so. If she feels hurt, she says so. If she is disappointed, she finds a way to express it honestly, not perfectly, not dramatically, just clearly. Because emotional maturity is not about controlling another person's feelings, it is about taking responsibility for your own. The strongest relationships are not built by people who never have difficult conversations. They are built by people who keep finding their way back to them. Sometimes the most loving thing we can offer another person is not silence at all. It is clear. As I think about these three things, I realize they all lead back to the same lesson. A classy woman does not spend her life trying to control how other people see her. She does not depend on someone's attention to feel valuable. She does not compete with another woman to prove she deserves love, and she does not rely on silence or emotional games to gain power in a relationship. Over time, she learns that none of those things create the kind of love that truly lasts. That does not mean she never feels insecure or disappointed. It does not mean she has everything figured out. It simply means she understands something. Many people spend a lifetime learning. Healthy relationships are built by people who already recognize their own worth. When a woman no longer needs constant reassurance to feel secure, she loves more freely. When she stops comparing herself to other women, she experiences more peace. When she chooses honesty over manipulation, trust has a chance to grow. That is why I have never believed that class is something you wear or something other people assign to you. Real class reveals itself in quiet moments, in the choices nobody applauds and nobody sees. It appears when a woman refuses to sacrifice her dignity for attention, her peace for comparison, or her honesty for control. Perhaps that is one of the greatest gifts that comes with growing older. You stop trying so hard to earn your value from the outside world and begin trusting that it was there all along. And when a woman reaches that place, she does not become harder to love. She becomes free to love without losing herself in the process.